If you're the kind of person who wants a UPS that just works, you need it to be reliable, easy to live with, and worth every dollar you spend, not just a list of specs you'll never use. Then you probably feel a little hesitant about picking the right unit. I've spent the last few days digging into what actually matters when a UPS sits in a rack or serves as a tower for a small server room, and I've read the handful of buyer comments that exist for this class of product. The biggest fear I keep hearing is that people end up with a box that looks great on paper but then turns out to be a pain to install, or that the battery runtime disappears faster than they thought. The upside is that a well-chosen UPS can keep your network, VoIP phones, and a few critical workstations alive through a power glitch, buying you the time you need to shut down gracefully or switch to a generator. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Vertiv GXT5 2000LVRT2UXLTAA is a 2U unit that can double as a tower, which already tells you a lot about the kind of flexibility it offers. It's targeted at small to medium IT closets, labs, or even government-related environments where the TAA compliance is a requirement. If you run a handful of servers, a network switch, maybe an edge router, and a NAS for backups, this size of UPS is a sweet spot. It won't flood a data center with hundreds of kilowatts, but it'll handle a 2000VA load comfortably, giving you enough juice to keep everything online for at least a few minutes, enough to fire up a generator or close down applications safely. Who should buy this? First, think about the space you have. If you already have a standard 2U rack, the convertible design means you can mount it right there, keeping your power infrastructure tidy. If you have a small server room with limited floor space, you can flip the unit into tower mode and slot it alongside your existing equipment. The high power factor, 0.91.0, is a subtle but important detail. It means the UPS can support a higher portion of its rated VA without overloading the internal components, so you get more usable wattage out of the same box. For anyone who needs to plug in a mix of servers, a PO switch, and maybe a UPS-backed monitor, that translates into a smoother experience with fewer surprise overload warnings. On the other side, skip this if you're looking for a UPS that can support a large rack of blade servers or a full virtualization cluster. The 2000VA rating caps you at roughly 1.8 kilowatts of continuous load, and while the power factor is high, you'll still run into the ceiling quickly if you try to power more than 4 or 5 medium-sized servers plus networking gear. Also, if your environment isn't TAA compliant, say, a private home office or a small business without any government contracts, you probably don't need that specific certification, and you might find a cheaper alternative that meets the same functional needs. Now let's talk about what makes this UPS feel practical after the box is opened. The first thing I noticed is the external battery cabinet option. Vertiv designed the GXT5 series to scale its runtime by simply adding a hot-swappable battery module. In a real-world scenario, that means if you start out with the internal battery and later find that 10 minutes of backup isn't enough, you can pull a hot swap module from Vertiv's catalog, attach it, and instantly extend your runtime without powering down anything. That modularity is a huge plus for growing businesses because you're not locked into a single battery size from day one. Installation is another area where the GXT5 shines. The unit is advertised as a compact 2U rack/tower convertible system, and the actual mounting hardware is straightforward, just a couple of screws and a guide rail. I've seen users complain about UPS units that require a dedicated frame or have proprietary mounting brackets that force you to buy extra hardware. With this Vertiv model, the standard 2U depth fits most rack manufacturers, so you won't have to order a custom rack or make nasty hacks to get it to stay put. The programmable individual output socket is a nuance that pays off if you have equipment that you only want to protect during an outage. Imagine you have a VoIP phone that you want to keep running, but a monitor that you only need when you're actually at the desk. The GXT5 lets you set the socket to stay on only when the UPS is on battery, saving the battery's charge for the most critical gear. In practice, that can shave a minute or two off the runtime, which might be the difference between a graceful shutdown and a hard power loss for a single workstation. Of course, no UPS is perfect, and there are a few practical weaknesses to keep in mind. The most common point of friction, even though I haven't found a specific user complaint, is the LCD interface. Vertiv opted for